Hey, howdy everyone. It's time for adjectives. Adjectives, that's more of a grammar problem than it is a Hebrew problem. There's a couple of syntax things and morphology things in Hebrew, but none of it's really challenging. What is challenging is whether or not you know what an adjective is. Well, it's a word that qualifies another word, probably a noun. That's true, but you're going to hear a lot of talk about something called the position of the adjective or the function of the adjective. And those two words are interchangeable. Position doesn't really have to do with how it's arranged syntactically in the sentence, although that might contribute to it. Position has to do with what it's doing. You have three different positions or functions, and they are attributive, predicative, and substantive. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But if you know your English grammar, and it might be helpful to pick up a little notebook. I'm looking for mine. I have it at hand. A little handbook for English grammar. Just a little short thing. You don't have to have, one of these big thick things like grade 8. And also, that's a note. By the way, if you're younger than me, and I'm 47, I was probably one of the last of the generations to come through and actually study English grammar. This is a tremendous loss that we have incurred as English-speaking peoples, that we don't study our grammar. Our grammar is difficult. However, in studying grammar, you become a better communicator because you understand what you're doing, right? There's a lot about function that's inculcated in the actual grammatical forms, right? So let's get to it. Let me show you the book. Adjectives, the form of adjectives. I got to switch over to the book here. Adjectives are marked for gender and number. That shouldn't come as a surprise. So you're going to get the familiar box with the endings in it. So you get the form of tov, which is a monosyllabic adjective. You know it's going to be goofy with the polysyllabic, and you can kind of do a preview. Well, tov, no termination. So that's a good man. Tovah is a good woman. Tovim is good men, and tovoth is good women, right? Good feminine things too. Mares, moons, I don't know. So you're going to have proprotonic reduction. This stuff shouldn't be any problem at all in terms of recognition. So let's get on to some of these other things. You also know that in a 1,000-year-old language, you're going to have some irregularities or some patterns that are less frequent but are still going to be common. And some of these monosyllabic monosyllabic words are going to have an extra dot because there's actually two letters there instead of one. So Rav for great is going to be Rabbah for great woman, and Rabbim, great men. And what is that? Numerous, I think. Rav. Oh, Ra. Very, very important word in Hebrew. That's evil. It's an adjective. Evil men, Ra'im, and so on and so forth. Now, on to the hard parts. The function of adjectives. Adjectives function in two major ways, and I don't know whether to disagree with this or say, I don't take that to heart, because that substantive thing is the one that really hammers on students, on fledgling students. The very idea that I said Tov is a good man is the substantive use, which isn't one of the two major ways. But it is so common that if you ignore it, you're going to stumble on it a lot and be in your exercises. You're going to be troubled. Yeah. The whole thing's troubling, isn't it? Attributive or predicate. And attributive adjectives form a phrase with the noun that they modify. Okay, that's the grammatical thing. What does that mean? Well, let's do the syntax real quick, and then we'll get on with it. So first, syntax. Attributive adjectives always follow the noun they modify, and that is actually an always rule. It is one of the few always rules in Hebrew. I'm sorry. I'm surprised I didn't just get struck by lightning. Anyways, attributive adjectives always follow the noun they modify. Look, if they don't, the grammar is busted. Ish Tov is a good man, and so you have a man, a good one. right? This isn't, if you know any language other than English, this isn't really a horrible, unfamiliar concept that you've got a man, a good one. Anashim Tovim, it's going to agree in number and determination, right? So you're going to have Ha'ish Hatov, the man, the good one, the good man, right? You do need to get from the man, the good one, to the good man, because in English we don't say the man, the good one. And I say that and I'm like, man, I do all the time, but that's because I'm a Hebrew guy. Jeez. But I do it a different way too. But I'll talk to you about that later when we do participles. See, you got to learn adjectives and the grammar of adjectives in order to do participles, which is one of the most important. Is that an aspect of verbs when you get the participles going, because they're modifying nouns, but they have subjects and objects. Anyways, adjectives. Ha'isha, ha'tova, notice that you have it all in agreement there, right? That's attributive. They're forming a phrase with the noun they modify, the good woman, and so on and so forth. Predicate. Now, adjectives that are predicate are those that use an adjective to form a nominal sentence, okay? Now, there are no rules governing the syntax. There's generalities, right? They generally precede a noun, and that's not a bad rule of thumb. If you see the adjective first, it's going to be predicate. Honest. So you get tov and you go, predicate adjective, so you just say tov is, good is. You immediately just do that. Good is a man. And then you flip it around so it sounds Englishy. A man is good. All right? And it's true for all of these things. Whenever you see the adjective first, and it's hard to do, right? Because there's so many words. But you see this adjective in its first, you just automatically put the to be verb, the linking verb, the copulative immediately, so that you get your predicate thing there. So you're going to hear this a lot in the exercises in your head and when I exercise you. Now, is that there adjective attributive, predicative, or substantive? Right? And you're going to stare at it, and on the clock you're going to hear the seconds of your life tick away whilst you ponder the mystery of the adjective. But it's just the problem. That's the problem of adjectives, is figuring out its position or its function, right? Predicative is going to have a to be verb linking there. They do not take the definite article prefix, so you're going to have tov ha'ish. So good is the man. Tova ha'isha, good is the woman. The woman is good, and so on and so forth. How do you get this? Well, you practice hard. You practice hard. You get out there and you hustle. You don't take any shifts off. You go out, you make yourself hurt to get this right. Again, to reiterate, this is more an English problem for students, native English speakers anyway. An English problem than it is a Hebrew problem. Once you get the English right, the Hebrew will follow. There might be some ambiguity because the predicate can follow the noun. And so that'll be example 17 and 22. Ish tov is a good man. And ish tov is a man is good. Or a good man. Right? So that's a problem. I don't think you have to worry about that one too hard. It's usually like if you jiggle it and it doesn't work, then it's a predicative, and it's sort of not a rule breaker because there's no rule governing it, but it's sort of like harder than it should have been, right? Now, adjectives may be used as nouns. Now, this is really important. I think again, like I wish, because it's true, predicate and attributive and predicate are used far more than the substantive. It's just that the substantive is common enough that it causes difficulties if you don't remember that there's that third one. So you'll see zaken, which is old. That's the adjective. But if you're going to see zaken as old man all the time and elder all the time. It's substantive. It's being used as a noun. And let me make something perfectly clear about like what we're doing here. Chapters 11 and 12 go together like peas and carrots. 11 is adjectives. There are very few adjectives, and if you're using a lot of adjectives, you're a bad writer. However, you're modifying nouns. And if you want to be a good writer, you got to modify a noun, and you do that with participles, see? And your participles are basically verbs that are pretending to be adjectives in every way, like I said earlier. And they can do this too. They can be used substantively, right? So you have one of the more famous ones in Hebrew is inhabitant, which is just from the word yashav, to sit or to dwell. You turn it into an adjective, yoshev, and it's inhabitant. It's a noun. See? And then you can unpack it a little bit. Those who dwell in darkness. See? You'll see the righteous ones an awful lot, especially in the Psalms. One of the more important things that you need to learn grammatically about adjectives is their use as comparative or superlative. Better. I used to do a joke back when I thought I was funny. Tov, Tover, and Tovist. And the students would just go crazy with like, oh, that is awesome. It's just like English. And then it wasn't. I was being silly. The problem is there is no progression in comparative superlative. It's Tov, Tov, and Tov. Context. Right? In context with a min, that's B. Comparison is marked by the use of min, right? So you see your predicate adjective, tov. Oh, good is the slave from the king. Well, tov, or adjective plus min, is better, is the comparative. Better is the slave than the king. Why do they do it that way? Well, why do we use than? Oh, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing. Yeah, that's structure. It's surface structure to compare. That's deep structure stuff, right? Tova chokma mizahav. Good is the wisdom from the gold. Did I get wisdom by extracting it from the gold? See, you're going to find something that just doesn't make any sense, and you're going to puzzle over it, and you're going to go, oh yeah, predicate adjective plus min. Better is wisdom than gold. Now, it seems easy enough in a vacuum like this and B, but the problem is you're going to have some sort of a verb and some sort of a dependent phrase that's got this embedded in it, and this is where it gets kind of wacky. But that's all right. You'll get it. Just keep working at it. I'm sure you're doing fine. Superlatives are marked either by the context or by some common indicators. Gosh, what does that mean? If you work it and work it and work it and it ain't working, it's the superlative. And it's just also you bind them together like you have Kadosh HaKadoshim, which is the Holy of Holies. It's the holiest place. I don't recommend you translate it as the holiest place, but that's only if you're taking my exegetical courses. So that's that. I'm going to check to see what you're seeing. Now, there's your complete drill 1, and you can. Demonstrative adjective is this and that. Okay. Zeh, Zoth, and Ayla, memorize those. They're the demonstrative adjectives. They're the ones that modify nouns. They are adjectives themselves, right? So you've got this man, this woman, that woman. All right? And notice that who is he and he is she again. That woman and that man. Those men, those women. Hena. And you can do the same thing with them. So this is the man who killed the king, right? It's predicate there. Or it's ha-zeh ha-ish, the man of this one. Except I did it backwards. Ha-ish ha-zeh, the man of this one. So it always follows the noun is what I mean to say. Examples 31, 32, 33. Let's do a predicative. What is that? If another adjective is used, the demonstrative always concludes the list. That's a nice one there. Okay. You'll get used to that. That's Sprachgefühl. You'll feel that out. And then the predicate, you've always got it as a predecessor. So it's zeh ha'ish. It's never going to be ha'ish zeh. It just won't. All right. This is the man. So learn your English terminology. adjectives. Attributive, predicative, and substantive. Get your little handbook for English out. I should have laid mine out beside me, but I haven't. It's about this thin, and it just has all this stuff in it. Like what's a noun, what's an adjective, what's a participle, and so on and so forth, right? It's just real basic stuff, remembering. Attributive forms a phrase with the noun. It's modifying the predicate, forms a sentence, a nominal sentence with the noun. It's modifying. And the substantive is the adjective is simply standing in the place of a noun. It is used nominally. The old man, right? It'd be great. You'll see this. Ze hazaken. This is the old man. See, and you've got all sorts of adjectives, right? And there's your vocab. Let's go through it real quick. The adjectives you're going to need to learn there's not many, believe it or not, in Hebrew. Gadol, zaken is old. Tov is good. Kaved is heavy, important. Now, wait a second. That's a stative verb, isn't it? Yes, that's right. I told you early on. Stative verbs are verbs that are parsed like verbs, but they're just adjectives. Tzaddik is righteous, from tzedek. Remember to get the adjective and the noun distinct from each other. Kadosh and kodesh, right? Katon, Rav is your. Let's see. Let's set the rest of the. And Ra is evil, and Rasha is also evil. Ra. I encourage you to, once you learn how to read Hebrew a little better, you're close. Read the book of Job in Hebrew, and just double click on Ra, and it will leap out at you what the book of Job is about. Nouns, tzedek, righteousness, tzedakah, you might be familiar with that. Why do they have two? I don't know. Kodesh, Karev, in the midst of, you're going to see it in construct with the Beth at the front end of it, just like you do Tawik in the midst of. Rove is multitude. You're going to have a Rav Rove, a great multitude. So Rav is numerous or large in number, and I think you've got a Gadol. Yeah, Gadol is large in size. A great crowd is Gadol is different from a Rav crowd. A Rove Gadol and a Rove Rav. Okay, I wouldn't know how to distinguish it. Just have fun with it. Gadol is to be large. I think that's stative. Kadash is to be holy. I think that's stative as well. I'm saying these things I think, and I don't know. Seems like it because they've got that stative feel. Karav, come near. Rava, be numerous. Some real professor can correct it in the kind of thing there. And then you have an adverb, me'oth. So you want to say very large. You use me'oth at the end of it too. Okay, that's it. Why don't you do some work on it and come back, and we'll look at your work together. So I'll try to pick some of the hard ones from the coursework, and that is chapter 11, the adjectives. Gosh, I sure hope you enjoy it. I know it's labor, and it can be painful and unpleasant, but it's the kind of thing that you look back on as an adventure. You did it, and you're going to overcome this with effort, and so it will be yours, and it will be a possession of yours. It's a virtue in it all by itself. That, and you can also read Hebrew. You're getting closer. You are edging very close to being able to sit down with the Bible and just read Hebrew. Honest. A few more chapters to go. Take her easy. See you next time with some exercises.